For a wrist shoulder practice today, it's going to be more Hatha style and less flow. What you need is a blanket to pad up your knees, a block or a book, and some kind of, I'm using yoga therapy ball. It's a rubber ball or a lighter squishy ball. You could find this in your kids' toys if they have, borrow it. And maybe a strap for a modification. So we'll start off first by doing a little check here. Make sure someone, okay, needed to be admitted. So we'll do a little check here on our wrist extension, which we may find benefit to exploring before and after, and it can affect our experience in postures such as hands and knees and downward facing dog. So let's start off with like a little before. So you're gonna extend your wrists, so palms facing up best you can, and bring the heels of the hands together and the elbows together and relax your shoulders. And just check in your range of movement here. So we're going towards, the direction is towards more of a T rather than a V, but meeting yourself where you are. Just checking in with where you're at. And notice that, and slowly releasing. We'll come onto hands and knees with a blanket underneath the knees, hands and knees to start off with. And we'll start with exploring the different angles of that we could place our hands that affect our wrist. So we'll first start in extension, wrist extension. So the palms will be facing down. You're gonna place your hand in a different way than you did the time before, not lingering too long in one position. We're just exploring the way in which our wrist can move. This is called graded exposure, where we are exploring different angles with different loads. So for less intensity, you may want to bring the hips further back or walk the hands forward more at an angle for less intensity. Yeah, we're showing our wrists some love. A couple more times, exploring internal rotation from the upper arm bone to external rotation. Right? Also noticing that it's all connected, right? What goes on in the shoulders and the elbows affect the wrist, and also from the wrist, elbows, and shoulders. Finding your center, fingertips forward, and now we'll flip onto the back of the hand. So the palms will be facing up, and this might be a little bit more tender. So if you need to bring the hips back and explore this at a different angle, go for it. And again, internal rotation, external rotation. Maybe it's been a while since you've explored these kind of angles with your wrist in flexion. So before, our wrists were in extension, and now they are in flexion. A couple more times, placing somewhere different than you did before. Noticing the internal rotation and external rotation of the upper arm bones. And then we'll bring it to center. Okay, so wrists below your shoulders, shoulders from your ears, and squeeze your arms towards straight. Best you can, keeping the elbows straight. We'll do some wrist push-ups here. So of course, awareness of the belly and ribs, hugging in, softening the front of the throat up, and keeping the arms straight. You're gonna lift the heels of the hands up and let the thumbs lift up also, and lower down. Lift and lower. Again, for less intensity, you could bring the hips back so your arms are at a different angle. Do that about 10, 12 times. Might feel a little fire happening in your forearms. Right? Often when our forearms are not strong enough, that also has to do with the muscles around the shoulders too. You may have unnecessary tension in the wrists. You might be dumping in the wrists. We're firing up these guys. Again, make sure you're not shrugging your shoulders to your ears. And after about your 10, 12, pause, notice the fire. You could do those ones again, or if it's accessible to you, fingertips facing the side of the mat. Again, shoulders from ears, belly and ribs in. Squeeze the arms towards straight, lift and lower. You might notice one side is more easeful than the other. Soften the front of the throat to the back. All right, we're building up the muscles that help support our foundation in the upper body in downward facing dog or any arm balancing. About 10 to 12, 8 to 10. Woo, I'm not a very good counter, so stop where you need to stop. And then we'll switch to fingertips facing back, or you can keep your fingertips to the side or somewhere in between fingertips side and back. And same thing here. This side might be a little bit more challenging. Shoulders from ears. I need a little bit more of an angle on this one. About 8 to 10. Who knew that? How much fire you could create working on your wrist strength here. This is great cross training for any work on the computer or on the phone, and also parenthood, schlepping. Woo, after your last round, fingertips forward. And you can have a seat here on your heels. Just pause, notice the fire, the shifts, the buzz in your forearms. And hands and knees again will meet, this time finger push-ups. So you're gonna lift up like a suction cup. You can make the sound effects too if you want. And then lower down onto your hands. So pull up and lower. Again, if you're at an angle that might be more accessible, do about 6 to 8 for this. And this is the action that we want to have, this energetic action when we're in any kind of arm balance, downward facing dog, plank pose. Woo, shoulders from ears. And after your last round, releasing. And now fingertips towards the back, not the back, the side. Pull up and down, up and down. 6 to 8. Fire in the forearms. 2 and 1. And we'll pause and notice, sitting back on the heels. Relax your face, relax your jaw, relax your neck. All right, first some self-massage now after that hard work, well-deserved. You're gonna grab on to a rubber ball, yoga therapy ball, or a squishy ball. My daughter has like a ton of like these kind of balls in her room, so something like that. Or you could try rolling up a pair of socks or like a small hand towel. So we're gonna address the forearms and the muscles of the wrist extensors. So the wrist extensors, and you can grab onto the meaty part of your arm here. I'm gonna pull up my sleeve. Right, somewhere here, like the meaty, fleshy part, that's where you're gonna roll the ball. So this is self-myofascial massage. Taking the ball, placing it about the area of the meaty part, and begin to, you can bring your shoulder over your elbow, roll the ball forward and back. So more on the meaty part, you might find it's more on the side, not directly underneath. Towards the wrist and towards the elbow, reposition however you need to. I find sometimes I need to have 2 blocks or another block that's higher to bring it up. So you could also place it on a book, 2 books here. And now finding that meaty part, we're gonna do some cross fibering here. So you go side to side. You might know it's a little more bumpy because you're crossing over other muscles. Relaxing your shoulders. Might find some curious places. And then hang out in one of those curious places and do little circles. Like I like to have my other forearm on top sometimes for a little extra pressure. Okay, and now you're gonna stay in that interesting spot. I just noticed my right shoulder sneaking to my ears. So soften right shoulder from the ear. And then open up your right palm and extend the wrist, fingertips towards the ground. And now flex the wrist and curl the fingers inward. And extend and flex and close. Do that about 4 or 5 more times. Eyeballs might be popping out. Soften those eyeballs. Opening fingertips down, and as you flex the wrist, curl the fingers in. When you do that, you might feel some sensation on the back of the hand. And after your last round, slowly releasing. Oh, pause and notice. You can even circle the wrist a couple times. Let's switch sides. So now, grabbing onto the meaty part right here, about like at the side. You can even pinch. It's nice fascial massage hydration there. Place the ball somewhere in the center. I like to bring my other forearm on top for a little extra guidance and pressure. And rolling the ball forward and back. You might have to balance with the block. Forward and back. This side might be different, especially if you are right-handed. And then find that interesting point, the meaty part, side to side. Might be a little bit bumpier here. Try to have the ball positioned in the middle of the block or the book. So it doesn't topple on over to the side. And little circles. Circle around. Little pin and stretch here. So like you're pressing down, like you're pinning. And then open up the palm. Extend the wrist, fingers towards the ground. Now curl the fingers in as you flex at the wrist. Do this a couple times. You can have that right hand down for support as well. Shoulders from the ears. About 3 more times. And after your last round, slowly releasing. Circle the wrist around, pause and notice. And rest here. And we'll take a little check-in here to notice, like we did at the beginning. All right, bringing the elbows, heel the hands together and extending the wrist. You may or may not have a little bit more range of movement, but you also may feel more spacious, especially around the forearms. All right, keeping that awareness. We'll make our way towards progressing towards downward facing dog, but keeping our attention on the shoulders here with the same awareness of the wrists. So placing the hands, wrist in front of your shoulders at an angle, and wrist creases parallel to the front edge of the mat. Spread the fingers wide, so your muscles of your hands may already be fired up in that suction cup-like action. And then you're gonna lift your armpits up. So side body nice and long. So lift the armpits up and allow the space in between your shoulder blades to melt. You can let your head go. So now we're bringing special attention to the shoulders. So the area, the muscles, the fascia around the shoulders can affect how we feel in the elbows and affect in how we feel in the wrist. So in this practice right now, we're allowing the upper arm bones to find their home in the shoulder socket. Allowing the space in between your heart to melt, squeezing the arms towards straight. And then slowly releasing, lower your elbows down to the ground, and the same thing here. Elbows below the shoulders, lift the sides of your body, lift your armpits, and allow the arm bones to sink upward into the shoulder sockets and allow the space in between your heart to melt. Let the head go. And keeping the side body nice and long There's still some core awareness here, so belly and ribs soften away. The space in between your shoulder blades melt. And slowly releasing. Now we'll make our way into a child's pose with similar variations. So big toes to touch. Grab onto a block or a book or even a bolster. And in this child's pose, the elbows will be underneath your shoulders, but lift the armpits, so slight shoulder shrug. Melt the heart and rest your head on the block. The block could be tall side, medium side, anywhere you can rest your head. So the armpits lift, shoulder blades, the space in between the shoulder blades melts. And be mindful with your breath that you're still acknowledging the perimeters of your being, especially the back of the waist, your kidneys. So you feel the shoulder blades coming in towards each other. And the arm bones melting into the shoulder sockets. And then slowly releasing. Make your way onto your hands and knees. Do a short down dog. So first, walking the wrists slightly in front of the shoulders. Wrist creases about parallel to the front of the mat. Elbow creases towards your thumbs, or if it feels okay. That's a whole nother thing, depending on where you are. But facing either towards your thumbs or to the front of the mat. And then again, lift your armpits up. Melt the heart, curl the toes under, and lift the hips up and back. And pedal it out. And in the wrist, you have that suction cup action going on as you make sure you press down through the space in between your thumb and your first finger. And walk the hands towards the back. Come into ragdoll. Belly supported by the thighs. Unload your spine. Release your neck. Release your head. And then roll it on up, one vertebrae at a time. Head is the last thing to come on up. 3 shoulder circles at the top. We'll do a little bit more scapular circling here. So reach your arms in front of you and squeeze your arms towards straight. Lift your armpits up, plug the arm bones back, and make light fists. And you're going to circle but alternating arms through the scapula. For another 4, 3, 2, and 1. Switch directions. For another 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly releasing. Let the arms hang to the side. And then sweep the arms up. Inhale. And exhale. Right elbow underneath left. Feet a little bit wider than the hips. Bending the knees. And circle around. Or move in any way that feels good to you. You can even circle all the way down. Finding any interesting areas in which to breathe into. And we'll bring it to center. Release the arms. Lift up. And now left elbow underneath. Move in any way that feels good. Again, linger. Whatever needs extra attention and awareness. And slowly release. Free your wings and hands by your sides. So if you have space, find a wall. We'll take it to the wall. And we'll first start off with the right side of our body facing the wall. And you're going to place your hand. You could start off with the wrist slightly over or slightly higher than your right shoulder and have the wrist crease parallel towards the ceiling. Spread the fingers wide. Okay, and then same thing here. Lift up your armpits and bring your right shoulder blade onto your back. Now the bottom tip of the shoulder blade towards the back of the heart, but the inner upper border begins to widen. Put the shoulder blade onto your back so the chest begins to lift. And press your hand, especially between your thumb and your first finger, into the wall. And maintain that. Begin to spin your feet away from the wall. So you might feel some sensation in your right wrist as you press through the space in between your thumb and your first finger. And be mindful you're not dropping your chin down, because that could cause rounding through the upper back and the chest. Keep the chin parallel and press into the wall, breathing here. Crown the head up for 3, 2, and 1. Mindfully as you can, releasing as you turn your feet to face the wall. And now other side. Okay, so left wrist slightly higher than left shoulder. Left wrist about parallel to the ceiling. And take your time setting up here. So you're lifting up through the left armpit and bring the left shoulder blade onto the back. So you're rolling the left collarbone open. All right, so the left collarbone comes back, upper arm back, shoulder blade onto the back. You can even take your right hand to your left ribs to gently assist the ribs to spin away from the wall as you walk your feet away from the wall as well. And make sure chin's not jutting out or collapsing in. Top of the throat back. We did a nice little neck mobility strengthening practice. So it's that top of the throat back, roof of the mouth back. And press the wall away. So the space in between your thumb and your first finger for 3, 2, and 1. Mindfully as you can, turning your feet towards the wall and release. Let's get nice and cozy with the wall here. So getting cozy with the wall. I'm going to start off with my right arm. I don't have a lot of wall, so I'm going to move to the left a little bit. And knife edge, right hand knife edge to the wall, palm facing up. And then to straighten the arm as I keep my body close to the wall, the right side of the wall, as I turn to the left. And you can start off with the knife edge a little bit higher than your shoulders, but best you can stay high to the wall. If you need to adjust arm higher, same thing here. You turn your feet away from the right hand, top of the throat, back and ribs in, and breathe. So you're opening up through the half moon of your armpit here. So the arm bone lifts up, armpit lifts up. You're rolling and lifting from the bottom of the armpit, top of the right shoulder for 3. A little bit more sensation. Press the knife edge of your hand into the wall. 2. And 1. Mindfully as you can. Releasing. Notice any difference between the two sides. And we'll switch sides. So first get nice and cozy to the wall or the pillar like I have here. Begin to straighten the arm and turn away from the left hand. This side might be really different. I just found my upper body leaning away. The best you can, stay nice and cozy with the wall. Keep the chin lifted, belly and ribs in. So you're keeping your mountain pose best you can here. And press the knife edge of your left hand into the wall for another 3, 2, and 1. Mindful as you can, turn your feet to the wall and release, shake out. Downward dog at the wall. So I'm going to place my hands on the wall, shoulder width apart and hip height. So I'm going to face the wall, hands hip height, shoulder width apart. Walk the feet back. I'm just going to move my blanket here. So your downward dog at the wall, and the feet are going to be wide. Now the same thing that we did before, you're going to lift your armpits up. So you're going to lift your armpits up, then melt the heart, and then press the wall away with your hands and your feet into the ground. All right, so I set up, I'm going to lift my armpits up. My armpits are not sinking down. Melt my heart, and then press my hands and feet away from each other as I lengthen the spine. You can have a bend in your knees. That might make it more accessible here. For 3, lifting the armpits, melt the heart. 2, and one, mindfully as you can. Releasing, shake it out. Let's come back to the mat. This time, top of the mat. Mountain pose, feet in or hip width distance apart. Arms at the side. Let's do 2 half sun A's before we flow it down. Root down, rise up, inhale. Exhale, hands to the heart and fold. Halfway lift. So you're lifting the armpits here and bring your shoulder blades onto your back. Exhale and fold forward. Root down, rise up. Extended mountain pose. And exhale, arms at your sides. One more time. Root down, rise up. Exhale, fold. Halfway lift. Side body long. Exhale and fold. Root down, rise up. Inhale. And exhale, arms to the side. We'll flow it down to downward dog. Root down, rise up. Exhale, fold. Halfway lift, lifting the armpits, shoulder blades on the back. Exhale, hands on the ground, and step back into downward facing dog. So you want to resist collapsing into your wrist. And that comes from lifting your armpits and lifting the forearms away from the ground. That suction cup action that you created with those wrist and finger push-ups. Pressing through the inner hand especially. And then slowly lower your knees down to the ground. So it may look like you're in an angle here, like down dog, but the knees are a little bit behind. And then make your way onto your belly for a cobra pose. So this variation of cobra pose, special attention of lifting the armpits. So the hands could be underneath your shoulders or a little bit further back, tops of the feet down. Suction cup action with the hands. Lift the armpits, so you're slightly shrugging your shoulders towards your ears, and then bring your shoulder blades onto your back, but maintain some width in between the inner upper borders of your shoulder blades. Now lift your face to hover over the ground and stay here. Press the tops of the feet down, pubic bone down. Again, so we're strengthening the muscles of the neck, especially the neck flexors like we did last week. But special attention of keeping your shoulder blades onto your back. Think of lengthening through the spine rather than lifting. For another 3, 2, and 1, slowly releasing. And push yourself back onto hands and knees. So up onto hands and knees. Walk your knees forward, have a seat on your heels, and interlace your fingers. Press your palms forward. Lift your armpits, plug the arm bones back into the shoulder sockets, and then lift your arms up. Now bend your elbows and take the tops of your hands, so the palms will be facing up, onto the top of your head, elbows wide. And here, bring your shoulder blades onto your back. So the bottom tips of the shoulder blades come in towards each other, and the inner borders are coming in close to each other, but there's a widening at the same time. Keep that, and then press your palms up towards the ceiling as you press through the thumb side and your pinky side towards the sky, squeezing your elbows towards straight. Belly and ribs soften in, back of the skull nice and long for 3, 2, and 1. Slowly releasing your hands down. Downward facing dog, maintaining similar awareness. So again, spread the fingers wide. You're clawing the mat with your finger pads. Curl the toes under and lift the hips up and back. So lift from the underside of your forearms and your armpits. And then walk your feet forward and come into a forward fold. Now, as you come into a forward fold, we'll keep a similar concept with the upper body like we just did, shoulder blades onto the back. So bring your fingertips to the ground and hands a little bit wider than you normally place them. You can soften through the knees and the hip creases. And then bending, or first lifting your armpits bending your elbows and bring your shoulder blades onto your back. Now keep that as you press through the heels, lengthen the legs, press the fingertips down, keep your shoulder blades on the back, and lengthen through the side body. So the elbows may bend a little bit more wider to the side, release your neck. Right, so you're using the same concept to keep the side body long, shoulder blades onto your back, and now lift the shoulder blades away from your ears. And slowly releasing, softening the knees. Same concept, interlace your hands behind your back. Bring the heels of the hands together and bend your elbows. And this time again, you're lifting or lengthening the side body. Then bring your shoulder blades onto the back. Keep the elbows bent. And now shoulder blades, the bottom of your shoulder blades towards your hips, away from your ears. You can lengthen your legs a little or a lot and keep that broadness through the chest. Squeeze your arms towards straight. But again, shoulder blades towards your hips. Let the neck release for 3, 2, and 1. Slowly releasing, hands to the ground, let that go. And step it back into downward facing dog. Hips up and back. Lower down to your knees and lower forward and down onto your belly. Coming into that cobra pose again. Lift the armpits, shoulder blades onto your back. Lift your face to hover, press the tops of feet down, pubic bone down, and hover here. Face hovering. Breathing here, keeping the shoulder blades onto your back. Another 3, 2, and 1. Slowly releasing. Push yourself up onto hands and knees, and then downward facing dog. Hips up and back. Again, tigress pause, clawing the mat, tiger pause, tigress. Clawing the mat with your finger pads. Lift your heels, bend your knees, and step whatever foot forward you want. We'll make our way into a wide-legged forward fold. So having all 10 toes in one line, slightly pigeon-toed. We'll do the same thing here, like we did in that forward fold. Interlace the hands behind your back. If your shoulders are not happy with that variation, you could grab onto a strap and hold onto it with the palms facing forward. Whatever variation you're taking, first bend the elbows, soften the elbows, and like you're lifting your armpits to bring your upper arm bones towards the back body, shoulder blades onto the back. Right here, so side body long, lift the armpits, plugging the arm bones back, shoulder blades onto the back, keep that, and lift the shoulder blades away from your ears. Imagine that you're pulling the strap or your hands apart. Breathing here, strong through the legs. For another 3, 2, and 1. Slowly releasing the hands down. Let that go, let your neck go. And walk your hands to the front of the mat. Downward facing dog. Feel free to pedal it out if you need. Again, suction cup action through the center of the palms. And then lower your knees down to the ground. And we'll make our way into dolphin pose, dolphin variation. So for this variation, you can have your palms together, fingers spread wide, or interlace your hands. For more even surface area, tuck your bottom pinky inside. You can start off with the elbows slightly more narrow than your shoulders. And the same thing here, lift the armpits, beauty in the repetition. Lift the armpits, let the heart melt. And keep that. Curl your toes under. Lift the hips up and back. Let the head hang heavy, let the neck go. And pressing down through the center of your wrists, center of your forearms, center of your elbows. Bringing more of the posture back into your legs as you press down Again, through the knife edge of your hands, the center of the wrist. Keeping a connection, just like you do in down dog, of the thumb side pressing in towards each other of your hand. Breathing here for another 3, 2, and 1. Slowly releasing. Make your way into child's pose. And make your way onto hands and knees. And grab onto your blanket. And you'll open up your blanket. It could be folded the long way, about 2 times, however way, whatever you're using, to make a long burrito, blanket burrito, or hopefully what will be a nice heart opener, chest opener. And place it towards the back of your mat so that you have enough space for your shoulders and your head. And have a seat. You'll lay down on the blanket so that the middle, the bottom tips of your shoulder blades are about middle of the rolled blanket. And bring your arms into a cactus arms. And you're going to press your feet down. And as you press your feet down, allow the blanket to catch your shoulder blades so they move towards your heels, and roll over the blanket until your shoulders are on the ground. Okay, so about the bottom tips of your shoulder blades, maybe on the blanket, shoulders on the ground. Adjust the angle of your elbows. You can stay here with the knees resting in towards each other, or extend the legs in front. Make it a little dessert, making our way towards the end. And breathe into the back of your heart. Actually, breathe into the perimeters of your physical being. Right? Let the breath fill in your back body, the back of your ribs, the back of your waist, this sense of being supported from the inside out. Making any adjustments you need. We'll stay here for about another 6 to 8 cycles of breath. Make sure you're keeping the back of your neck nice and long. You need to tuck your chin in slightly towards your chest. Softening the front of your body, the back of the body. And slowly releasing by bending your knees, rolling on over to one side, coming up to a seated position. And then from here, hands and knees, bringing that sense of openness through the chest into your downward facing dog. Again, spreading the fingers wide. You can take your time sitting up. Lift your armpits. Let the arm bones plug into the shoulder sockets, and you have those suction cup action going on with your hands as you make your way into downward facing dog. And lifting the armpits, lifting the forearms, and supporting the wrists, not only from the strength of your upper back and the shoulder girdle, but also the muscles of your forearms that we explored, those wrist push-ups, finger push-ups, the head drop. And then slowly make your way onto your knees. Little wrist release here. So you're gonna bring your right palm in and hold on to the inside of your right forearm here, close to the wrist, or relatively close to the wrist, and pull down nicely, mindfully. Relax your shoulder and bring your wrist into extension and pull down. And then you could circle around or side to side. Release for the wrist. You can explore the fingers, pulling down, and then slowly release. Circle, shake it out. Show your wrist some love after all those down dogs. Same thing on the other side. So pull down. So you're just like a pin and stretch like we did with the ball with the forearm. Extend the wrist. And then you can feel free to circle it around side to side. You're pulling gently down, whatever feels comfortable for you. This side. And then slowly release, circle around, shake it out. Now time for neck release. Grabbing onto your block, medium height. And the edge that's closest to your pelvis will be right at the base of your skull. The occipital ridge. You can have it at an angle, that's great too, where you could hook it right underneath that occipital ridge, or you can keep the block flat and let the arms rest to your side, whatever you like. In constructive rest, knees rest in, feet wide. Turn your head side to side. We're getting some muscles here that attach to the base of the skull and the collarbone. And now turn your head all the way to the right. And now lift your head, turn your head halfway to center. And rest here, or feel free to do teeny tiny side to side movement here, like you're shaking your head no. A little no. And bring it to stillness and nod your head teeny tiny yes. Relax your jaw. And you can explore teeny tiny circles with your nose, about 5 times each direction. Letting your face soften. And then from there, you're going to turn your head from here halfway to center. And same thing here. Turning your head teeny tiny no. And to teeny tiny yes. And teeny tiny circles with your nose, about 5 times each direction. And finding stillness, finding center, rock it side to side a couple times, and we'll land on the left side, all the way to the left. From this point, halfway to center. Teeny tiny nose, rock it side to side, relax your shoulders. Be fast or slow as you like. And yes, nodding your chin down. About 5, 8 times. And circles 5 times each direction, little circles. And from here, turn your head halfway to center. Pause here. Be heavy. Breathe into the spot. And little nose. And think of what your no is to serve your greater yes. And teeny tiny yeses, nodding your chin down. About 6 to 8. And circle about 5 times each direction. And after that last round, head side to side a couple times. And then feel free to rest here longer, or you can remove the block, lower all the way down to the mat, and turn your head side to side here. And then nod your chin yes. And then circle around a couple times. And we'll meet in resting pose, your resting pose. You can take the extra or the rolled blanket, tight roll, to about the same area that the block was and rock side to side, or you can use it to fill up the space in between the back of your neck and the ground, chin slightly nodding inward. You can roll it up and place it underneath your knees or that supported heart opener that we just did. And finding your resting pose, whatever shape helps you settle into yourself. You can place one hand on your heart, one on your belly. An acknowledgement for having the strength and enthusiasm to show up on your mat today. Using your hands for feel back, this sense of support in which to breathe and expand into. And sense of support that is with you on the out breath. That feel back to soften on the out breath. Feel the ground rising up and meeting you where you are. So noticing the points of contact, and allow those points of contact to be heavier into the ground. No longer controlling the breath. The first step in the process of letting go is accepting support. Support of the ground, support of your breath. Let the bones of your face be heavy to the back of your skull. Back of the skull heavy towards the ground. Back of the shoulders, elbows heavy towards the ground. The back of the pelvis, the heels are heavy to the ground. And invite more space in between your teeth, in between where your hand and your forearm meet, your fingers, your ankles, all the way to your toes. And you can stay here as long as you need, or slowly begin to deepen your breath. Again, movement back to your fingers and your toes. Gently turn your head side to side. With awareness, bending your knees. Roll on over to whatever side is calling for you. Mindfully pushing yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Eyes can be closed or a soft gaze. As you overlap your hands on top of your heart, think of one thing in your life that you are grateful for, no matter how big or small. And then rooting your sitting bones down into the ground, lift your heart up into your hands. We'll end together with one cleansing breath. First, empty out all the air from your lungs. Inhale, fill on up. Keep your heart lifted, exhale, ha. And as always, gratitude for practicing together. May it all be a benefit to us and everybody else around us. Namaste. Thank you.